Hope everybody's doing well during these difficult times. We're all dealing with this in different ways, both personally and professionally. I'm Ron Sabatino with GPL Technologies. Some of you may have been working remotely part-time or full-time before the work from home orders started. Some of you, this was a mad dash to get your workforce working from home. And today we will look at how we can help improve things and where to go next. To introduce Jason Blum from GPL Technologies.
I've been looking forward to this webinar. We've been moving people remote for a couple of months now since this all started. And it's been going great for some folks, not so great for other folks. And I think everybody is running into a lot of different challenges. Some people are realizing they could have done this all along, and others are realizing that there are pieces that are missing that need to be added in to make this a complete workflow. So that's what we're hoping to address on this call today, is how can we take the things that have happened over the past couple months and turn those into more permanent kinds of workflows that have better performance and security and manageability. So, thanks everybody else on the call today who's here to talk about exactly how to do that.
I would like to introduce Paul Austin from Teradici.
Hey, thanks, Ron, and hello, everybody. It seems like we went from a whisper to a scream early on in March, where I think by most estimates, a very small percentage of the workforce was typically working from home or working remotely, either by virtue of their position or by virtue of privilege. And overnight, we're in a situation now where almost the entire rest of the workforce has been dragged, kicking and screaming in some cases, to this work from home reality. I mean, you sort of see behind me. So I'm also excited to be here with our ecosystem partner, Leostream, and we're excited about participation in this. Our eyes are firmly fixed on that point on the horizon where things start to change, but I think we can all probably agree that our new normal, at least a portion of it, is here to stay.
I'd like to introduce Jack Liu from Teradici.
Hey guys, thank you, Ron. Yeah, absolutely, everything Paul said. And as on a personal note, being in Vancouver, where we're so reliant on the media entertainment industry and VFX, it's really good to see that, hey, all these studios that we've been talking to on and off for the past 1 or 2 years are now seeing the value of being able to remote their solutions and the things they need to do, and it's really helping keep the BC economy, which is the province that I'm located in, moving along, and it's a great feeling to be helping folks in your neighborhood, basically.
Thank you, Jack. I'd like to introduce Karin Gondoly from Leostream.
Thanks, Ron, and thanks for inviting us to participate. We're very excited to be here. So Leostream, our position has always been to provide remote access for anyone from anything to anywhere, and it's amazing how that message is resonating in the climate that we have right now. And we've been doing a lot of work with media and entertainment in a number of different industries. And some of the stories that I don't want to say enjoyed, but the nice things that we've heard is people who have leveraged our software beforehand have come back to us and said, hey, you know what? Day one when this hit, we were able to send our workforce home and everything was fine. And it's nice to be a company that's allowed people to be effective and continue to be effective as we move forward.
Thank you, Karin. I'd like to now introduce Bob Ewanouski from Leostream.
Yep. Hello, everybody. I'm Bob Ewanouski. I've been at Leostream for about 15 years now, since the inception. And as Karin said, it's kind of amazing to see that all the work we've done with work from home users, with our partners, Teradici and other partners, that market is now here in front of us, and we're well suited to help you moving forward.
Thanks, Bob. Jason, would you like to get us started here?
Yeah, so the focus of today's call is really to dig into how these rushed remote experiences that people have put together over the past couple months can be shored up with tools that make it easier for people to manage. So your IT teams can manage them easier. You can ensure security for your resources and for the users, and to improve performance for the end user, right? So a lot of these workflows that have been cobbled together quickly, we've seen everything from people connecting over VPN and just accessing file shares, to sending home workstations and working 100% locally, shuttling drives back and forth, to very robust and mature remote workflows that use PCO-IP and connection brokers and other remote protocols. What we need to do really is let everybody on the call kind of lead them in the direction of how to make this a long-term stance, right? How to put in a foundation that is something that when we all come back to the office, remote work isn't just a memory, it's something that we can all continue to do as we need to as our workflows evolve. So what I'd like to start out with, for the benefit of people on the call who might not have worked with a connection broker, is explain kind of what it is, and I'll pitch this to both you and Karin, what a connection broker is and how Teradici and Leostream both approach connection brokering.
Who wants to go first, Paul?
You know, actually, I'll probably punt this one to Jack, because I think that Jack can probably explain this in better terms.
Yeah, sure. I can definitely explain. So in the sort of the VDI or remote workstation world, there are generally two parts. One part is the agent. So that sends the remote signal across, and then you have a client to sort of receive it and to decrypt it and to render it onto the screen. But in a lot of workflows that today we see, that requires a direct IP connection, right? And since your users are at home, they're not on the same network as they would be in the office. That's where the connection broker comes in. And the connection broker sort of, enables a single point of entrance for all of your users. So, when they come into the broker, they type in their username and password, so we make sure they're authenticated. And then the broker knows which workstation to point the users to. And then when the workstation establishes the connection, generally a lot of that traffic is funneled through the broker or a component of the broker, so that the connection itself is secure. Karin, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, let me go.
No, go ahead, Karin.
Okay, so yeah, I just wanted to expand a little bit on that, because there's other aspects of the broker itself that can help you secure your environment and track resource usage and really make it easier for you to manage and grow as things move forward. Things like multi-factor authentication, which has become very, very important as users have moved remote. And then also brokers have the intelligence to know where your users are coming in from, so you can change the level of security that's required based on where they are. So when users do move back to the office, maybe they can do username password authentication, but if they go back remote, you want to automatically switch them back over to these MFA technologies so that you can ensure security. And then just a little bit on the tracking point, the nice thing about sending all of your connections through that broker is then the broker knows who's connecting to what, when they connected, how long, and can manage the length of time that they're allowed to connect. So that gives you ways to optimize pools of resources and things like that. All right, Paul,
yeah,
you're up.
Well, what I was going to say is just to sort of take it back to the level where I would typically talk as the sales guy, which is that our history has been really around connecting in an unmanaged way, performing that direct connection between what is hosted in the data center or remotely to some degree with an endpoint device, and doing that with a protocol. And people who remember things like GoToMeeting or any of those kinds of direct connections, that just sort of helps to frame it as the difference between that sort of one-to-one kind of connection and something that pools of resources can be accessed, and there's intelligence built into and orchestration that's built into the broker so that a request can be more intelligently handled. It's almost like a traffic cop.
Yeah, I think it's a good analogy, because right now what we're seeing a lot of people doing is just, they're sending 0 clients home, or they're having people install software clients on their workstation at home. Right. They're giving them a VPN connection of some sort back to the office, and then they're saying, okay, connect to this IP on the private network from your house, and that's the way they're brokering more or less the connection, right? It's a manual brokering process. Mm-hmm. So what we're talking about here is automating that process a bit more and putting some more security and flexibility and control around it.
Yeah, and additional capabilities as well, because the brokering and orchestration, how the request gets to those resources. I mean, there can be a very sophisticated chain of logic gates that you go through, and the broker's capable of handling that.
And your comment on orchestration is interesting there too, because the thing that a broker can also often do is orchestrate VDI workloads in clouds or in virtualization layers. So now, as you expand or as you contract, you can make sure the broker ensures there's the right capacity there. And then also, no matter if your user moves and you need to send them into AWS US East, or they go to Europe and they need to connect them somewhere else, they always go to the same login portal, and right. What they're connecting to is almost
yeah,
they just don't know.
That's a great point, and it's something that I thought we might discuss later in the conversation, but we should just tackle it now because it's going to be an important thing as people begin to come back into the office. And it's especially relevant to a lot of folks in the M&E space, where there's a large body of freelancers that are working potentially globally. Mm-hmm. So in a case like this, where people have taken the time to remote their workflows, when this comes back on-prem, you can continue to use that same workflow on-prem, right? So you can continue to use your broker to authenticate and direct resources locally. And you can also use that same broker to authenticate and direct resources to cloud services. So if there's a situation where somebody wants to spin up 20 freelancers in AWS rather than putting workstations on-prem, this is one of the gateways in essence to do that, right? I mean, that's what you see people doing. Yep. with your products.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think
another key, sorry, Paul, is really and stress the audit level tracking of a broker, so that you know who the user is, who's logged into that machine, and most importantly, how long. So people in the audience that are the management team, right now, M&E, they come in and they punch a card, and you know when your users are working. Now that they're working from home, with a broker, you can see which user was on which machine for how long. So it's pretty important, both off-prem and on-prem.
I mean, and if you think about it, the workers and the workers' productivity, that's obviously very important to the business. And so from the perspective of the IT shops, they want to be able to provide access to those resources to continue that high level of productivity, and being able to provide a consistent user experience regardless of whether they're here working from home today or they have started to, and we think it's probably going to be phasing back in to working maybe Tuesday and Thursday in the studio, and then working Monday, Wednesday, Friday from home. They want to have a consistent experience. They want to make sure that, because that's going to help to kind of flatten the curve as far as learning. See what I did there? Flatten the curve. But putting these solutions in place in ways that continues to enable them to be productive and not have to learn lots of new things depending on the situation. I mean, those are some of the key considerations that CIOs and IT leadership should be thinking about.
And another thing to think about is, our stance is always, we want to help you future-proof your environment, so that as new technologies come into play, or you need to expand into different regions of the cloud or different clouds entirely, or build a new solution on-prem, you want to make sure that you've built up the rest of the ecosystem to the best of your ability, so that you don't have to replace everything as you try out these new technologies.
Right.
Yeah, in a sense, you guys are really, what we're talking about is an abstraction layer for workstation resources, right?
Yeah.
So
I like that.
where you're connecting to the broker, and the broker then, IT configures the pools of resources that that user might have access to, or, that broker can spin up the necessary resources on your VMware cluster or in the cloud, or perhaps it's a one-to-one workstation mapping, or maybe it's more than one thing per user, right? Maybe somebody connects in and it's an editor who does have a high-power dedicated workstation assigned to him, but then he also has another workstation that's just set aside and dedicated for internet access.
Right.
And both of those could be accessed from the broker and maintain completely separate secure connections. That IT managers have total visibility over that, and he has total control over how he uses it. So it's kind of like there's a win on both sides, I think. So I feel like it's a layer that's been missing from a lot of workflows for a while. So.
Right. Right. I mean, security and management are things that are important to IT, but the end users themselves, they want that agility and they want that flexibility. And so providing the orchestration layers, the brokering components, that answers the call, that checks both boxes.
Right. So now I think we have a good idea of how brokers fit into the environment. Can you explain a little bit about how the two brokering applications that Teradici and Leostream have differ from each other and where they might make sense? Because I know with Teradici, when you have a cloud access plus license, you have the broker. You can use the broker. Is that correct, Paul?
Yeah, that's correct.
Right.
Cloud access software.
Right. Yeah, but then there's a lot of features that are not there that you may need from an enterprise perspective that indicates where Leostream may really be a better fit. So can we talk about how those things differ and where one is indicated versus the other?
Yeah, and I can absolutely talk to that. So, and I think we should start first because I think we are at a disadvantage when we are compared to Leostream. But exactly that, Jason. Cloud Access, when you purchase Cloud Access software, we do include a complementary broker called the Cloud Access Manager. And that basically enables users to connect over a WAN without a VPN connection after using the Cloud Access software stack. And it is really just that, right? It's username, passwords, MFA that you can configure. And then once the users connect, the workstation based on the administrator's assignment is assigned to the user. But it is that, right? So what we see really, it is a version 1 of the broker. It's definitely not as fully feature rich as Leostream. But that's part of sort of, we will be building out more features, but we always see that there is a place for Leostream, especially for customers who want to run to be TPN compliant or for some other reason to be at a dark site, so having no internet access. That is something we cannot fulfill today, and I don't know when that will be coming. So that's why Leostream, I think, is an absolutely good fit there. Also, some of the advanced features like pooling and non-persistent desktops, if you're looking for those in the public cloud or in a virtualized environment, Leostream right today does those features very well.
Thanks, Jack. That was nice. Yeah, so just expanding on that. So, Leostream's been around since 2002. So we've spent quite a number of years maturing and advancing the platform that we have. And along all those years, we've always done that by listening to what customers need and the workflows they need to accomplish and the authentication methods they have to use and adding that into the product, which means now we do have this very feature-rich, vendor-agnostic, hybrid cloud management tool. So you can host your machines anywhere. You can use various different protocols that you want to use. You can model just about any workflow you can imagine, from non-persistent to persistent to everything in between. So it really is just this very sophisticated tool for managing these enterprise workloads. On the authentication front, we have the Active Directory, we have the MFA using Radius, and then there's also, if you want to use any username password system that's not Active Directory, we have customers who use OpenLDAP for people with Linux systems. Sometimes they want NIS, still out there, or even just local users are things that we can support as well. And we can do fancy things like allow you to log into the broker using Active Directory, but then allow you to log into the workstation itself using different credentials, which turns out to be important in Avid environments. A lot of times those are service accounts that are used on the Avid machine, but they want to log into Leostream using AD so they can track who's logging in to actually get access onto that Avid machine. Oh, what are some other things? Bob, what else?
I have a quick story I can share, Karen. So this just happened probably a couple of weeks ago, where we had a customer that had PC over IP on-prem. There's a couple hundred users, and they picked up their clients and they went home and they called in and they said, well, look, we can't use PC over IP from home. We'd like to use RGS. And in that case, Leostream was well suited. You flipped the switch to the license key, and those users are now using RGS from home where they were using PC over IP on-prem. So that flexibility is fairly important, especially if you're an enterprise customer.
Yeah,
that's an important distinction to make. I mean, Paul and Jack, you're doing PCOIP through your broker. You're not going to do other protocols, correct?
That's correct.
So in a case where we have a lot of customers who, their shortest path to remote was grabbing a bunch of RGS licenses. So maybe they have RGS at home now, and they don't want to give up that investment, or they don't want to give up that flexibility, but they do want to add PCOIP, or they do want to add another protocol. Maybe, I don't know, it's Blast or it's TGX or whatever, right? But Leostream will give them that capability. Is that right, Karen? Where you can simply basically flip a switch and now you've got RGS and PCOIP happily coexisting in one connection broker.
Right, exactly. And I should point out, we do have full support for cloud access software. We also support the PC over IP remote workstation cards. And so we have a lot of people who they had the workstations with the installed cards on-prem, and obviously those people, they're not going to let their editors take those home. So what the editors actually did was took 0 clients home, and we can actually, through our gateway, connect those 0 clients back to the remote workstation cards. So now you don't even have to think about setting up a VPN for users. So it just kind of simplified their transition of these users home as well. So yeah, mixed environments.
That's a huge point. So because we do have a lot of people with 0 client cards specifically, so hardware cards. On the Teradici side, how does that work? Is there any way to broker those through the Teradici side, or is your broker purely based on the software?
Yeah, so our broker, you can definitely broker the cards, but those cards will have to be on a VPN, right? So in that scenario, if you are looking to do remote workstation cards without a VPN, then Leostream would be the answer here.
Yeah, the other interesting use case that came up was and especially in the M&E space, where the Macs were, stayed back in the data center, and you can plug in a remote the host cards, and now you can connect to those over PC over IP, or what's the other one, Karen? It's
no machine.
No machine. Yeah. So the flexibility and protocol is important.
Yeah, we do have a lot of people who have, it's a very Mac heavy environment in a lot of cases in the M&E space. So, and I believe that the only way to remote those via PCOIP is using the Amulet hotkey external box.
Typically, what we'll do is we have this partnership with Amulet Hotkey, and they essentially provide a KVM type solution. It captures the video output, and then it's got the same silicon in it that our remote workstation host card has, and it then encrypts and encodes for the PC over IP protocol and transmits it. Because obviously in the media and entertainment space, we hear this a lot, the frustration of not being able to remote a Mac OS.
Well, Jack, why is it? Let's digress really quick on why is it that you can't remote a Mac? What is it that Apple's doing that keeps you from doing that?
Yeah, so I can definitely touch a little bit upon that. So Teradici, when we first started our partnership with VMware back in the day, I think like 2018, they're very virtualization focused, and Teradici even today is very virtualization focused, right? And the nice thing with virtualization is you can do Windows, you can do Linux, but it's really difficult to do Mac OS, right? Definitely, we are hearing the need now as we move into more beyond just graphical virtualization, but more into remote workstations. We're definitely hearing the need, especially in the M&E industry, that they need Mac OS. So it's definitely something that we are acutely aware of, and I think definitely keep an eye on this. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, we can.
No spoiler alerts there.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. But so hopefully we'll see some more flexibility coming down the road. But for right now, on a Mac, let's say somebody's got 100 Macs at the office and they want to remote them. they're going to be investing in some Amulet hotkey. And then how are they going to, what's the best way for them to connect their users outside to those systems?
That's where we can come in.
That's right. I was going to say, again, if you don't want to use a VPN, right, Leostream is the answer. Or if you want to use, if you think VPN is acceptable, then you can also use the Cloud Access software as well. And we include a broker, the Cloud Access Manager there.
So let's say we don't want to use a VPN, right? We want maximum performance. What do we do then, Karin?
Then what you do is you send your users home with 0 clients, and it does require the hardware base, the 0 clients. And then you install the Leostream gateway, which is our, I know for in Teradici, the security gateway and connection manager are kind of bundled into one system. Ours are separate. So the broker is one application, let's call it, that you would run in your data center. So it's not on the internet. And then you have the Leostream gateway, which actually is accessible maybe in your DMZ from the user's device. And then it can also connect to the desktops in your data center. And then you just send the 0 client connections through the Leostream gateway. The gateway handles the communication between the client and the broker to handle login so that we can still authenticate them and do your MFA and whatnot. And then the broker tells the gateway, okay, this is the machine you should connect the user to, the external host card. And then that PC over IP connection, that traffic goes through the gateway. So that's the Leostream gateway.
Okay, this is a good point for us to start talking about how the difference between the broker and the gateway. I think you just touched on kind of how that works, but the broker is the management plane. All right, so the broker is where someone's going to connect, and it's going to say, connect this person here. The gateway is a different thing, right? So the gateway, so no traffic really transits the broker, right?
Correct.
The gateway, if you implemented a gateway, is what would actually have traffic passing through it. And that is what would allow you to remove a VPN from the equation.
Correct.
And if you remove VPN from the equation, you're going to get better performance, right, Jack?
That's correct.
Right. So in an ideal environment, down the roads, people would want to start looking in that direction. They'd want to start looking at getting a broker coupled with a gateway. Now, let's talk about how the gateways actually work and how they differ between the two solutions. I know, Jack, we talked a bit about gateways in the past, and you require one gateway to access on-prem resources and a separate gateway to access cloud resources. Can you explain how that would work? I mean, somebody connected to a broker and you wanted them to have access to an AWS instance and a on-prem workstation. What does that path look like?
Yeah, for sure. So in that recommendation, in a hybrid cloud scenario where you have on-premises data center with your workstations there, but you're also looking to burst to the cloud, then you can use whether it's our gateway, our brokering solution, Cloud Access Manager, or Leostream plus our connection manager. You can just simply have 2 instances of that, one instance for your on-prem users and another instance for your users in the cloud. And then you can have an intelligent load balancer that says, hey, if this user's coming in via this IP range, connect him to the local connection broker, and if he's coming in from an external site, or if he's coming in, if these guys are contractors, then connect them to the cloud one. And once you do that, Leostream can be sitting behind it, and Leostream would know, hey, this guy goes here, this guy goes there. And yeah, you're authenticating, you're connected. And generally, we recommend, finding the shortest path between your client and your agent. So in theory, you can also have just one single connector. Let's say in your on-prem environment or in the public cloud. But a challenge we see with that is you're routing traffic, right? So let's say if the user is trying to connect to an on-prem resources but hitting the cloud connector, what that would mean is then the on-prem resources will have to route their traffic back out through the security gateway in the public cloud and then back out to the user, which makes it a little bit more roundabout than what most customers will want.
It doesn't sound optimized. Sounds like it might cost more potentially also. So Karin,
Yes.
and Bob, how do you circumvent that? And can you explain a little bit about how your gateway scales as people need to add more users?
Yeah, so our gateway works slightly different in that it is separated out the 2 steps. There's the step 1, which is the login, and then there's the step 2, which is the desktop connection itself. And for us, the gateway functionality is independent of those 2 steps are independent. So you can have a gateway, and maybe you want to load balance it. That way, if a gateway goes down, the other ones keep functioning for the login. But you have that gateway sending the user's traffic to the broker, so the broker can then say, oh, this user is going to AWS, this one's going to Azure, this one's going to on-prem. And then you have a gateway or a gateway cluster for each of those locations, and our broker can switch you over to the appropriate Leostream gateways based on what it knows you're connecting to ultimately. So it's a slightly different architecture there. And then that kind of points to the scaling, is that you essentially create multiple gateways at a location, and you can use a standard load balancer to load balance between those, or you create what we call in Leostream a gateway cluster. So you can say, well, this user is associated with this particular gateway cluster, and then it kind of spreads between the cluster, usually via your load balancer.
Okay, and how do you assess the performance of a gateway? I mean, how many users can you put on a gateway? Is it something that's CPU bound or network bound? And is it something that's simple to scale if somebody comes and says, well, hey, I had 10 users, but it's working great. Now I need 100 or 500.
Yeah, so our gateway is a very simple port forward. Essentially, it's, when you think about it, it's like an enterprise NAT that you don't have to actually set up. We automate it and close and open firewall ports as needed. So the load on the gateway itself when traffic's going through it is very low. What's going to be the limiting factor is your network. And so we just kind of throw out a standard, don't send more than 100 users through any particular gateway because your network's probably going to not handle that after that. Now, depending on the type of traffic though, that number could be much, much lower. You know, for people media composers or any other application like that, you're going to get fewer users through a particular gateway before the network's just unhappy about it.
And I think a good thing to mention, if I could add to that, Karin, is that, and Jason, this is really for your audience, is that this is formulaic. This is part of how you plan your deployments. There are session planning guides, there's architectural guidance around the workload characterization, what kind of bandwidth are those types of workloads going to consume relative to all sorts of things about the workload. How much are the pixels changing? What kind of ultimate screen resolution are you going to need? So when we talk about the media and entertainment space, it's really important to think of that user experience as being our prime directive and then architect it appropriately.
Yeah, it's funny. We have users who have wonderful experiences with PCO-IP, and we have users who have subpar experiences with PCO-IP, right? And it's not that the protocol is broken. It's just that there are so many pieces between both sides that it's difficult to maintain, you know, a constant quality of service from end to end, especially when you throw in public networks to the mix, right?
And this is where I throw in the pitch for systems integrators, our ecosystem partners, for our technology ecosystem partners like Leostream, but then also the implementers, the systems integrators, people like yourselves who have that core competency, who understand the right kinds of qualifying questions to ask, understand the workload characterization and how to deliver that pixel for pixel perfect type of user experience. Because at the end of the day, we're all focused ultimately on just delighting our customers.
Yeah, it's interesting, the PCO-IP, because it's not a lightweight protocol, and I think that's one of the things that people have a misconception about in a lot of cases, is they think that it's you know, a highly compressed protocol that's going to give them a great remote desktop experience no matter where they are. It's like, no, it needs to be tuned. You need to pay attention to the path, and we'll see. You know, we'll see video, full screen video spike well beyond 100 megabits a second. The average may be 20, right? They may be seeing resource monitors say, well, it only says it's 20 megabits a second, but I've got skipping and stuttering and screen tearing, you know, here and there. And as you look closer, as you look in the intersample peaks of what's happening with their screen, you know, like you said, when a lot of pixels change, what is 20 megabits can be 100 for, you know, a split second, and that can change the entire experience that the user is having. So it's something that you got to analyze very closely, what they're doing, what resolution they're doing. Are they using a quarter screen? Are they using full screen? Are they using more than one screen in different ways? And all of those things really feed into how the end user's experience winds up. It's
and we have these session planning guides that, just like you say, they actually show that as a visual aid. They show the quadranting approach for screens. And think of an avid media composer workload where you have the timeline that is generally in the lower half of the screen, and then you have a couple of different windows, an editorial window, maybe a playback window. And this is just for one monitor. In many cases, there's dual monitors that are indicated. So it's really important to understand everything that's involved from the requirements perspective. We take a consultative approach, and we know that our systems integrators do the same. They try and really measure twice before doing any cutting, measure 3 times before doing any cutting.
Yeah, there's a really great tool to look at PCOIP statistics, the session statistics viewer. I don't know, Jack, you want to talk a little bit about what kind of information you can get out of that? And maybe we can throw a link in the chat too for people to
Yeah,
download.
absolutely. So the session statistics viewer really spits out a whole lot of information. Generally, what I recommend customers to look at is packet loss, latency, and bandwidth usage. And basically, that's where generally where the 3 performance issues, especially if the customer has performance issues, that's where it arises, particularly with packet loss. So PCOIP is particularly sensitive to packet loss because, as you're watching a real-time video, if you just threw out a part of the screen, then how is the codec is going to be able to handle it, right? It handles it up to a certain amount, but once you throw away too much, or once too many things get delayed or out of order or just lost on the network in general, then it's harder to deal with, right? So that's where that if you can just look at one thing, that's the thing I would recommend to look at. And for us, packet loss is not just literally the packet didn't make it to the other side of the network. PCOIP is a real-time protocol. So, if things like it's out of order, or it's been, buffered up, or it's been, just altered in some way on the network, that may cause some performance issues.
Okay. So as we start to move back into the office, Karin, I'd like to talk a little bit more about how we can maintain some of the flexibility that we've implemented in these remote workflows at the office. Can you talk a little bit about how you can integrate with VMware? And in fact, it kind of sounds like Leostream can kind of replace Horizon, right? And
that's exactly what we've seen people doing,
right? So
yeah. So the thing about Leostream is, we're a piece of the full stack. It's the connection broker, it's the gateway if you need it. If you don't have to. Then there's the agent and the client. And by taking that slice out of the stack, it means we allow you to build the rest of the stack using whatever technology works best for you. So if you have VMware on-prem, yeah, you don't necessarily need all of Horizon. You need vSphere, ESXi, and vCenter if you want us to do provisioning. And then we could just hook up for the model, the non-persistent and the pooled and the hard assigned and all these different workflows directly with VMware. But really, we can manage access to anything that you put our Leostream agent on it. So Macs, Linux workstations, Windows servers, RDS, whatever you want, if you put our Leostream agent on it, we can manage access to it. We can do some power control. There's obviously no provisioning then. We need the APIs of the hosting platform to do that. But for basic brokering and like Bob was saying, the audit level tracking and all that, you can get that with Leostream just by putting the agent on whatever you want to connect to.
Maybe it's important to, just to bring up to talk about the different APIs that we do talk to. So VMware is obviously one, and that's the topic here, but there are other APIs that we actually integrate with that give us that provisioning and power control feature set.
Yeah, so from a virtualization standpoint, it's the VMware and Red Hat as well. We also integrate with big 3 clouds, so Amazon, Azure, and Google Cloud Platform. We have the provisioning for that as well. And then scale computing, if you're looking to go with an HCI solution, hyperconverged infrastructure solution, we integrate with scale computing as well. So those are the platforms that we have the provisioning API integration with. And then there's a couple other systems that we integrate with APIs where provisioning doesn't make sense. Things like HPE Moonshot systems. You can't really provision on that. It's a bunch of cartridges. So, but we do have API integration with that, and we can manage connections to those nodes. We can discover the nodes and the operating systems installed on them, things like that.
So to Jason's point, yes, you can replace Horizon with Leostream. And so, that's probably 80% of our customer base today. About 75 to 80%.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons that I think that's very interesting for a lot of the attendees here is many folks in M&E are not doing a lot of VDI right now. And this has pushed them in that direction. So if as part of this, Leostream comes into the fold, becomes the connection broker for their PCIP endpoints, for instance, at home. Well, when everybody goes back, now the foundation is in place to extend that to VMware-based VDI. So people who might have said, oh, well, I got to set up Horizon, I got to do all this other stuff. Well, now you already have some of that infrastructure in place to start doing that experimenting, and you don't need to go and build a big environment to do VDI. Some of the pieces are already there. A lot of the pieces are already there.
Yes.
And then as an adjunct to that, you can take the workstations from underneath the desk and put them inside a secure area if you need to, right? Higher, better security compliance, less heat, less noise. So, and if you got Teradici or whatever protocol working fine over the WAN, it's definitely going to work a lot better locally. So there's a lot of benefits to having those workstations put aside into a secure location that's controlled and cooled and has adequate power and isn't getting anybody's way.
Yep. In fact, that's where Leostream started. So we've always been remoting, whether it was from home or from in the office back to the data center. But that's kind of the roots of Leostream.
Yeah, I was just going to add, if you're an existing Horizon customer today, most likely you're using Teradici PCIP. And a lot of these customers have Teradici 0 clients, right? So they want to say, okay, if we don't want to pay for the cost of Horizon, what are some of the components that I can, eliminate or reduce, but still keep, as much existing investments today? So Teradici, with our cloud access software, we offer a standard agent. So that's the agent that's really designed to live in a virtualized non-GPU accelerated environment, plus Leostream. And it's basically 99% to what you need to enable a standard desktop EDI use case. And you can leverage your existing environments and the 0 clients, so you don't have to go out and buy new thin clients or 0 clients.
At a fraction of the cost, Jack.
Absolutely.
And a fraction of the complexity, I think, is also important.
Exactly.
Yeah. Typically, if I could just add something, I mean, when we are talking to folks, it's important to understand that it's not our approach to go out and try and forklift and lift and shift and rip out any of these environments. And what we'll typically encounter is, I mean, look, we have 13 or so odd million VDI desktops out there that are trusted to PC over IP. And the partnership with VMware is a very important partnership for Teradici. From an outsider's perspective, it may appear to be a little bit more complicated, but it's a complex ecosystem. And within every organization, there are workloads that are just not suited from a protocol and from a delivery perspective to the capabilities of some of the other protocols. So I mean, it's kind of a sock sorting exercise within an organization. If you've got your standard sort of workforce productivity loads, in a lot of cases, the investments that they've already made in VMware and Horizon, or frankly any of the other vendor solutions, those are just fine for them. But when it comes to the workloads that I would characterize as the truly high value collaboration workloads, the graphically and computationally intense workloads, that's where we really can differentiate ourselves. And that's where there's plenty of business for everybody in this ecosystem. Again, we're really focused on delivering that no compromise user experience.
So can you talk a little bit, and this is to you and Jack both, talk a little bit about the situations where PCOIP, is there a place where it's not a fit in a remote workflow? Like what is the place where you may not want to look at that?
Yeah, I can definitely touch upon that. So I would think PCIP generally is actually really good fit for basically any VDI use case. Now there may be some features that we today the cloud access software may not be able to provide. Collaboration is a big one, right? Some customers, they want to say, I want myself and then another editor, another producer to look at the same screen. That feature is on our roadmap, but that is not something we can provide today. So if you need that feature, unfortunately, you will have to look at an alternative.
You're talking about multiple access to the same screen simultaneously.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yes.
So KVM style, like sharing. Right?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So that's something we don't have today. Other things like TeamViewer, or if you want to do troubleshooting, right? If you want to say, hey, I want to log in as a technician to this PC just to do some troubleshooting, that is something that we're not suited for today as well. So those are some cases, but I would imagine every other use case to be generally really well suited for us.
So in terms of,
yeah, sorry, I will say, Jack, as a partner, so we've seen customers using PC over IP, and with our broker, you can use VNC to kind of overshadow those sessions.
Yes.
So nice advantage and a nice way to work together.
okay, well, that's really interesting. So you'll use PCOIP as the presentation protocol for the primary user, and then just have a VNC agents simultaneously running, so you can have collaboration at the same time. Is that?
Yep.
Right. Because the PC over IP is essentially console, so so is VNC. So you VNC into the console, and you're seeing the other person's PC over IP session.
Yeah.
That's a great use case. So
Yeah,
Jack, oh, go ahead, Paul.
Sorry, Jason, I was just going to say that there are plenty of people across the EUC virtualization industry that have been making protocol comparisons, have been doing bake-offs for a long time. And, you know, I think that, again, the very nature of VDI, it's not like server-based computing, which is almost monolithic in its approach. Everything is going to depend on how the architecture is all put together, and there's a lot of components in the architecture. It's a server storage networking piece in the data center, it's the network components themselves, it's the topology, it's a lot of things. And when we talk about delivering a remotely hosted workload, there are a lot of things that are not within the control of the IT organization. So it's still very much your mileage may vary, but we can provide a lot of the guidance, particularly as you look at the architectures that we put together, the reference architectures that we put together with Leostream, for example. I would definitely encourage your viewers to check those out, because they can see quite transparently a lot of our assumptions around workload, and they can compare those with their own reality. Because like you said, when we hear about screen tearing with PC over IP, it makes us sad, and we're eager to jump in and say, oh, it could be a lot better. You might have just missed this piece.
Jack, I'd love to know a little bit more, because I know we're kind of coming to the end of the hour here. Really focused on M&E use cases where people are doing very intense and color accurate workflows. Have you seen a lot of success promoting those workflows? And I know you made changes to the protocol last year to support some of that stuff and make some optimizations around that. Can you talk a little bit about what you guys did and when you might use a standard PCOIP vanilla out of the box session versus PCOIP Ultra, the new updates to the protocol?
Yeah, sure. So PCIP, whether it's Ultra or just our Generation 1 codec, is 8-bit 444, right? So that's the thing I throw out to any M&E customers that want to know what differentiates us between H.264 versus PCIP. We're 8-bit 444. Most H.264 implementations are using, 420 8-bit color, right? And the color accuracy between those are just night and day. And now to talk more about PCIP Ultra, PCIP Ultra is an enhancement to the protocol that we've made around 2018, 2019. And it's really today targeted towards the 4K 30 frames per second use case, generally for video editing purposes, right? As we see a lot of these customers, they want to say, okay, well, can we support 10-bit color? What's the future for, even something like 8K? Right, is that possible? And with the Generation 1, the Gen 1 protocol, we're sort of seeing the limitation to the code, right? Whereas PCIP Ultra, even though today 10-bit is on our roadmap, it's capable of doing 10-bit and capable of doing 8K sometime in the future, right? where it's just not possible with Gen 1 today. And to enable PCIe Ultra is really simple. You need to have the right instruction sets on your CPU. So we need the AVX2 instruction set on both your workstation and the remote client. So unfortunately today, Terra 2 Zero clients will not be able to support PCIe Ultra. But again, things are in the works to have thin clients that would support PCIe Ultra in the future as well.
I believe there is a client now, is it from IGEL, that does support yeah, that does support, and that's just in the last, I think, month and a half or 2 months.
Yes,
maybe.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah.
That's really new and really exciting. And as part of PCIe Ultra, one of the other things we've implemented actually is MBank. For those who don't know, it's NVIDIA's proprietary video encoding hardware that's on all of their GPUs. And out of the box, how I just dissed H.264. We're doing H.264 as well, but the way we do it is we do 444 out of the box. Like, unless you want to go down to a lower quality, you can, but out of the box, we're at a higher quality already. And we just don't understand, we do understand why, but, just see a lot of these customers, they don't even know that for some of the other competing protocols, there's this 444 option, and, it's hidden away somewhere. Whereas for us, we just enable it out of the box, and that's our default.
That's great. Yeah, I've noticed on the sessions that I've tried, enabling the GPU enhancements has definitely improved performance significantly in terms of frame rate. So one of those things to dig into, and that's one of those things that's available. You need to enable it in the group policy editor. You kind of have to go in and do it. It isn't out of the box that way. So that's one of the things that we can help with, or you can help with, and optimizing people's performance with either CPU or GPU enhancements.
That's right.
I think we're coming up on sort of the hour here. I'm gonna open the floor to you guys and see if you want to really kind of wrap anything up or make any closing statements about how y'all work together and how, putting a broker in place and having gateways in place and having a great presentation protocol is going to make the remote experience better for people and make their return to the office experience better in the long run.
Hey, if it's okay with you, Jason, I'll start. I mean, I think that this panel is a really great example of just a terrific better together story. We've been around since 2004, and we've developed a lot of the innovations in this particular EUC space, and it's led to us being the protocol and the ecosystem that's trusted to deliver about 13 million VDI desktops. And as the present conditions, the challenges that the world is facing, as we move out of that, we're really pleased to have the ability to be a guide and kind of embrace our role as one of the engines of what I'm calling business unusual. And we're really excited to continue to work with our technology ecosystem partners and systems integrators like yourselves to make sure that people can get back to work as quickly and as productively and as securely as possible.
Yeah, and I think from a Leostream perspective, it's exactly what Paul said. And I mentioned that Leostream has been around since 2002, just before Teradici, and we've been partners with Teradici since they became a thing. Bob likes to tell the story. We shared our very first booth in VMware together. It was a Leostream Teradici booth way back in the day when it was all remote workstation cards. So it's if you're looking at a solution that incorporates Leostream and Teradici, not only are you building a solution that allows you to future-proof, so you can move to different environments and support different workflows, but you're also working with two teams that have worked together for a very long time, and so there's a tight integration, and it's a trusted integration that's deployed worldwide right now.
Yeah.
Yep, agreed, Karin. And so I just want to thank Jason and Ron. Thanks for having us. We're looking forward to working with you guys. But thank you very much.
Yeah, it's great. It's been a great call. I love these kinds of sort of open forum discussions with everybody, so we can talk about what everyone's doing and how to make things better without having too many limitations. It's really cool. So we touched on most of the topics we really wanted to in this call, right? We talked about how Teradici can be optimized to some extent. We talked about how Leostream and Teradici connection brokers can help people connect more securely, how they can improve performance on their connections, and how you can ease management for the IT team in the long run. So I think we touched on most of the main topics that we wanted to. which is great. So I think if anybody has any questions, you can see that all of our email addresses are up on the screen. I'm not positive what the follow-up will be from Ron, but I believe we're going to send out some links to material and just follow on questions and resources for everybody. And I'm certainly open to, if anybody wants to have a call or a meeting about how we can all work together to implement these solutions for right now and for the long term. I'm happy to have those discussions, and I'm really happy that everybody is now seeing remote workflows as something that can't be ignored anymore in M&E. I think we had a lot of people who 6 months ago would say, I don't want to work remotely. That dropped a frame. I don't ever want to see it again. I'm only going to work in the office. And now we're having a little bit more flexibility in terms of demands and requirements. So it's good to see that you guys are there. You've done a lot of work to really optimize that performance. And it's as close to being there as I think you're gonna get. So Thanks for all the work that you guys do. And on the Leostream side, I'm really looking forward to combining you with Teradici and giving people the ability that they have been asking for, where they can use their on-prem workstations with whatever protocol and extend that into the cloud and build some automation around that and not be confined by the hardware they have on-prem. So it's a lot of exciting possibilities with both of you guys together.
Yep.
Ron, I don't have anything that you want to say at the end here either?
I just want to thank everybody for joining us today. The panel did a really great job, and there were some questions that came in, and I will forward that to the panelists, and they can reply in email.
Sounds good.
Thank you, everybody.
Good, thanks everybody.
Thank you.
Very much.
All right.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.